In this series, I want to cover some of the books in the Bible that a lot of churches are afraid to explore or even have an exegesis on it, whether it's book of Revelation, whether it's the book of Enoch, etc. But today I want to cover the book of Job. Now, the reason why I decided that I want to cover the book of Job, for the simple reason, Job is a very complicated story. Very complicated, and at the same time, it goes deep into human sorrows and suffering, and especially a challenge to faith. Job, how the book started, Job was a man of God and strong in faith. He had pretty daughters, a lovely wife, and cattle. He had everything. That a human could ever want. His life was protected. But Satan, seeing that Job had lovely hedges around him, beautiful daughters, a lovely wife, and sons and cattle, Satan turned to God, the accusers of the brethren, and said to God, the only reason why that Job is faithful to you is because you have put him on a pedestal. You've given him all these luxuries. In those days, having sheep and cattle was regarded to be like the mansions that these pastors live in today, the Ferraris that they drive. So the camels were the Ferrari of today, and the horses, he was a symbol of wealth and power. And Satan said to God, that's the only reason why Job is faithful. But you kill all his family. You take away his children, his wife, his livelihood, and he will gladly curse you to your face. Obviously, the story says that God said to Satan, okay, do it, but do not touch his soul. Meaning, Satan, he has the power to kill you, but do not touch your soul. Meaning, obviously, do not kill him. Well, that's too complex to go into, the first death and the second death. First death being asleep, and the second death, is eternal. That's too complex to go into at this moment. But do not kill him, meaning do not put him to sleep, etc. Okay, and Satan waged war against Job. He went for his family, he went for his livestock, etc. And he struck terror. And even when Job says, in fact, a pastor said that, I think it was Benny Hinn, that says Job must have been mentally ill. Because, in other words, what Benny Hinn is saying, if that happened to me, I would curse God to his face. If Benny Hinn is saying that Job was mentally ill for sticking with his faith, when he lost his family, his friends, people told him, curse God and die. You might as well curse him. And Job would not curse God. And Satan even struck sores and bruises on his body. Now, why a lot of Christians won't touch Job is for the simple reason. We are living in an era of prosperity, and God's going to bless you. We have a strange God today. The God today is an ATM God. It's a bank, your bank manager, your bank card, your credit card. It's a strange God. He wants to make you rich and prosperous. It's seldom you're going to come across any pastors today. If I asked a friend of mine, who was a Christian, they lost their faith. And I says, have you heard of the book of Job and what it's about? And she didn't even know. You ask most people about Job, nobody reads it. And the reason being, no one is prepared to sacrifice. No one is prepared to go through any affliction or persecution for their faith. And the pastors through any affliction or persecution for their faith. And the pastors certainly don't have any intention to sacrifice their faith. Hence, they don't touch Job. Job is a confusing, painful book because it makes you look at yourself. Would you curse God to his face if you lost your job, your livelihood, stuck with sores around your body, your friends telling you, mocking you, saying, look, curse God, look what he's done, he's killed your wife, your husband, your children, took away your house, your car. Many people today are only Christians because it pays well. They're only Christians because they haven't been challenged. I've come across Christians in the past, a Seventh-day Adventist, when he lost his job, and he says, oh, I keep the Sabbath. That's all he did. Lost his job, didn't lose his wife, didn't lose his children, didn't lose his house, didn't become ill, but he was already on the edge of losing his faith just for losing his job. But I kept the Sabbath. In other words, keeping God happy. Look, I'm keeping the Sabbath. So, just scratch my back, I scratch yours. Make sure that you look after my bank account. It's the book of Job is a book that many Christians won't touch because it makes you have to examine yourself. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to lose your friends and your family? Why Christ says, unless you prepare to sacrifice yourself, pick up your cross. Many of us, we hear that term so many times, pick up your cross, and we don't even know what it means. Sacrificing ourselves, we don't know what it means. Being dead to self, forgetting the world, we don't know what it means. We can talk about it, but the reality is, when you read the book of Job, the reality, what it really means to stand on your faith, no matter what spiritual warfare. Job was going through spiritual warfare. He was going through spiritual warfare. He didn't know it. He was being attacked by the devil, but he didn't know it. And the church certainly will not preach from the book of Job, because when you're going through pain and suffering and you can't see what's attacking you, you can't see. The world's it's an invisible world. Spirit beings fighting, and you can't see it because you haven't got spiritual eyes. But what's interesting, that book is avoided. It's too painful for Christians to look at themselves and question, would I turn my back on God? What would make me turn my back on my faith? And we are called to judgment, judging ourselves. What would make you turn your back on God? Lip service don't mean nothing. The Bible talks about lip service. Job, he walked the walk and he talked the talk. It's a total difference. I hope you like this video, and there'll be many more covering books that the church won't cover, like Revelation and Daniel. And I will be discussing those books.